Good afternoon. So we're going to try this here. So we've developed a few questions, and I'll put the first one out there. There are several. We don't know if we'll get through them all, but we'll start. The first one. So how is the shift towards hybrid work models impacting the way maintenance operations are managed?
So if anybody wants to come and join us, come on up and give us your perspective. We'll get it kicked off a little bit. Since you are all in the Fishbowl, you are all fair game, and if not, a shark will come and find you and drag you to the stage for your input. Okay, so please don't make the sharks come out. We have to be careful because Big Brother's watching us, so we won't be too violent. But I guess, I think if you're talking to some of our operators on the floor, they might have a much different perspective than you're talking to some of our engineering teams. I think they feel, since COVID happened, well, they were all considered critical to operations. And I think it's left some sour feelings, to be honest, with some people who don't understand why some people can't come in 3 days a week or find it challenging when they're there every day and work through their shifts.
Yeah, to build on JD's point a little bit, at our facility, we do have some individuals that work hybrid, and they're expected to be on site 3 days a week. And then we have critical to operation staff that are expected to be on site 5 days a week, a normal schedule. And that has led to some animosity, and that's certainly been a challenge. I think one of the things that we're kind of working through and thinking about is how to leverage technology to support that hybrid model, right? And I think a good example of that is within our automation organization, right? They work a hybrid schedule. Meanwhile, much of our our maintenance teams don't, and automation is a key support team for our maintenance organization. And so we've been trying to work through that relationship and how to improve that relationship and those partnerships. And one of the things that I think we need to do a better job at is look at different technologies or new technologies to make those interactions easier, right? And in some cases, maybe remote. Certainly automation can remote in some of their tools, but to get that interaction and understanding, I think there are other, tools out there, technology tools that we could leverage to drive a better relationship there. But in the end, I think there will always be a need for teams to partner at the production floor level. That's never going to go away, but I do think there's technology out there that can better support us. And I certainly open up to the floor. I don't know if anybody has experience with that type of technology, but if you do, certainly would love to get the feedback there. Hermann, I don't know if you...
Yeah, you told us about the operators, but I would go inside our environment also. Like we were discussing a little bit on the table about CMMS system. So how could it be like friendly user? So we are at the last level on the machines working on this to become more friendly user, but not inside our home. So planning, scheduling process, some spreadsheets, things that we can do better. We can also improve usage, like AI, also those technologies to do that.
Any other feedback on the hybrid work model? Great,
Does anybody have any successes with it?
Great, we can transition to another topic. So the next topic, how has the expectations of maintenance management changed to support new philosophies within our maintenance space?
What does that mean, Chad?
So I think around management, right, as we look towards maintenance managers, 10, 15 years ago, I think maintenance management was really about tactical execution, right? Like you're here to keep equipment running and support our operations. As our span of coaching has increased and our span of controls have increased, that's driven, I think it needs to drive different behaviors among our managers, right? Where the work needs to happen at the production floor level, and our maintenance teams need to support that activity, and our maintenance managers need to start thinking more strategic, right? Like what does the plan look like, not tomorrow, but 3 to 5 years down the road, and really get engaged in these technologies and work to promote those technologies and set those expectations with their organization. So, you know, it's this transition from the tactical day-to-day to how do we drive these strategies longer term in our organizations. And I think historically that's been done at more of the associate director or director level, and I think that expectation is going to change as the span of control changes, and you know, more of that's going to land at the maintenance management level, and the individuals that are doing maintenance are going to have to drive those tactical day-to-day discussions with their self-directed work teams. So that's a trend I see in the industry. If you guys have any commentary there.
About it, we were talking about standardization, but I totally agree with your presentation that it must happen also in like widespread around the company. So each HR must follow also IT, not only engineering, digital, and it's supposed to happen everywhere. So it must be like cascaded, not only globally, but the site must know what are those targets and their role on the global environment.
I was going to call Bobby up to the table to have his take on it. You're welcome. Bobby and his team have been working on this a little bit.
So I just shared with my table how much I enjoy JD, and I take it back.
I earned every bit of it.
You're no longer my most favorite Takeda employee. All right, so around this topic, I think the most important thing is that managers are engaging with their employees. That oftentimes what I hear from the folks on the floor, especially coming out of a town hall or other meetings, is they're hearing things for the first time that we may have been discussing for months. So engaging with our teams early and often and making sure that they're part of the planning process and that we're including them in decisions and empowering them to influence our decisions probably will lead us in the best direction when we're moving forward and get the highest level of buy-in that we can get as we evolve and transform our organizations.
Thank you for that.
So since we have Bobby on the stage, I know he has a lot of feedback around this as well, so I'll get the question out there. How are maintenance roles evolving with a shift towards a more flexible workforce of handling of both traditional and new age maintenance?
I can speak to how we're trying to evolve our maintenance team and our organization from the time I joined until now, we've been really trying to break down silos and create a situation where we no longer have facilities operators and shift mechanics and process mechanics and metrology technicians, but where we're upskilling all of our technicians, all of our maintenance personnel to become a more cross-functional maintenance team, a team that is capable of working together to triage and correct any abnormal events that come up. We're doing that through training. We're doing that through just collaboration and engagement and conversations, and really trying to make sure that all of our people have a good foundation of skill to address any problems that arise. Of course, we're still going to have SMEs. Like, we're not going to ask a shift operator to go calibrate a chrome skid, right? Our metrology folks will still be the SMEs in that space. They'll still do that work, but we will be coaching those folks up so that they have the ability to at least identify problems as they present and then engage with the correct SME to correct the problem as quickly as possible.
And I think to piggyback off that a little bit, you touched on training a little, and I see our friend from Lifecycle Engineering left the room, but we have been partnering with Lifecycle Engineering and utilizing their Atlas knowledge library. So we have modules for MRO, spare parts management, planning and scheduling, and reliability engineering. And we made a commitment within our site engineering group that every person on our teams would at least take one of those modules. So we're at least talking the same language. So when we talk about failures and we talk about PMO and things like that, it's not a foreign concept to them. And they can understand that. And they will often bring things that are like, hey, I got a great PMO opportunity. And that starts from the ground up. So I think that also is shifting the way we're communicating and translating into our ways of working.
Yeah, and just to build on that, I think, and I want to give Bobby credit for this, we talk about the training, JD highlighted the Atlas piece. In terms of getting those hands-on skills and making our reskilling initiative, I think earlier in the event, you heard Pete talk about Takeda's reskilling. It's across the organization, and it's outside of your normal GMP training. And one of the things that Bobby did in partnership with some of the leaders is just took our standard maintenance schedule, right? So we have, our weekly maintenance schedule. They print that schedule off so, they understand what's on the maintenance, and then they share that across the teams. And if any one team member says, hey, I want to learn how to do that calibration, and they may be from the HVAC team, they say, I want to learn how to do that calibration. They'll partner up with that calibration technician, go to the field and do that calibration and get real hands-on experience in the field. It's very meaningful for them. They're getting to choose something that they're interested in learning about, and it's creating this cross-functional workforce. So I just want to give Bobby credit for standing that up. And, we just started it, but I think it's going to be a real success.
Yeah, we're already seeing the benefits, and what we're finding on the floor is people are excited. They're getting engagement in things that they've always been curious about. That's outside of their normal routine. Just yesterday, we had an HVAC team working on calibration of a UF skid with our metrology team, and they're figuring out how these things work. I've always seen this strange device in the middle of this room for the last 10 years. I've never known what it does. And it's cool to see that engagement and to have people that now understand better why we do what we do, right?
Great, thank you. Herman, we got a question for you. How can leadership within organizations drive the cultural change needed to adapt to the new philosophies and technologies within the maintenance space?
I would say that exactly the role of the leadership team. The leadership team must help the teams to understand new technologies, cascade the targets towards this. Also, provide the people opportunities to do that, to implement that.
No, that's fair. I think, from my perspective and similar to your comments, as a leader, setting those expectations for the entire team, right? And I think, and I'll just use our COP, for example. We have a community of practice at our site. We partner with our global teams on that as well, and we have global community of practice, and just setting the expectation with the teams, right? When that community of practice is scheduled, we do it quarterly at our site. It's an hour and a half. And I'm communicating that to the entire organization, right, in advance of that. Because the more people we have there, the more cross-functional partnership we have, the more we can communicate what we're working on, what we're doing in this space, and the more ideas we can generate as part of that community of practice cross-functionally, the more value the program's going to drive. So that's just a simple example that I think leadership can do to help support the programs. And, those simple examples, I think, just add up over time. So, do you have any other comment there?
No, I think we saw it earlier. Is it Carmen, I believe, right? You highlighted the pillars and the thing. What are, how engaged is your top leadership in driving those things home?
have another example from Brazil. So before the beginning of last fiscal year, so we aggregated the whole team, like the strategic ones, maintenance planners, supervisors, coordinators, engineers, and the site engineering head. So it was an event, like to gain the engagement, like working, SWOT analysis, the whole methodology, like to cascade the global goals, discuss the priorities. So it's another way to create the targets, but also gain the engagement of the team. So we draw a roadmap for 3 years of implementation, like 24, 5, and 6 for our site. So it's only for engineering. So it's also, I would say, good practice to share. That also helps like a leadership, but also to gain the engagement for the whole team.
No, that's a great example. Thank you. So just switching gears here, how are companies dealing with the loss of experienced maintenance professionals and the skills that are associated with those individuals as they leave the organization? Do you want to take that one?
I was gonna. Does anybody out there have that problem? Our Lilly friends? Anybody? Everybody? I mean, if you don't, right? I think we had some great conversations around, partnering with some of the local organizations that are with the trade schools, and we do use Mass Maritime, also some the military reskilling, things like that. So we're working locally with those types of things. We became a certified apprentice program for HVAC, taking all those small steps to try and bring those in and train them. And we've had some apprenticeship programs that come through with the full intent that they're going to take over that open position. So we have, I don't know, many of you guys have struggles with headcount, right? You have to keep it down, or it gets approved, or if you don't fill it, it goes away, because you obviously don't need it if you can't fill it, right? So it's really kind of hard to even put some of those programs in place with some of the HR policies out there that, we're kind of bending the rules a little bit in the way they look at it when we're trying to do these programs, because the position technically exists, but it really doesn't. So it's really hard to finagle some of those bureaucratic processes.
Yeah, and to build on JD's point, this was big for us. So we do, JD mentioned the HVAC program. One of our challenges, right, we leverage, as part of our internal team, we have HVAC technicians, and those are licensed technicians. And part of the challenge with getting licensed technicians in our facility was recruiting, right? Because typically you're recruiting more experienced individuals with that licensure. And we really had a desire to bring in new talent, right, or earlier in career talent. And to do that within the Boston market, it's difficult because most early in career talent, they want to leave a trade school and work for a company that can sign off hours to get them licensure. And we didn't have internal staff that could sign off hours. So we actually partnered with the state of Massachusetts to get that accreditation so that we can sign off hours, so that if we bring in new talent, they can work under our licensed HVAC team, and we can sign off on their hours so they can get licensure eventually. So that was a big step forward for us, and it was a great program, and I think it helps recruit new talent into our organization. The other thing I think on the just the skills transfer piece is having those conversations, right, with team members. People that are getting it late in their careers, and having those conversations and developing real plans with those individuals to transfer that knowledge, right? So to have a knowledge transfer process. We don't have it formalized, but we do have those discussions and work to transfer that knowledge. But I would encourage people to, if possible, formalize their knowledge transfer process so that we're documenting that knowledge, and that can be continually passed on. So that's just something to think about as well.
Before we wrap it up here, does anybody from the Cytiva, the OEM side, have any insights on what they're doing? If you want to relieve Bobby, maybe give him the.
Great. No, thank you.
Yeah, so I think that's the end of our time, but I appreciate you all for sticking around and listening to us. And the Fishbowl, Bobby, thanks for falling on the sword for us, and everybody else that participated.
Yeah,
Do you have any other questions?